Welcome everybody to Works of the Next webinar. This is our second time we're doing it with Nirovision. Nirovision has some updates to the integration, some new features, and to make it easier for everybody to set up. And I'm excited about seeing them. Per usual, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A section in your Zoom. I don't know what you call it, client. And you can ask questions there. I'll keep an eye on those, and then chat is open as well, so feel free to chat, which Justin already has. So over to you guys, Eliana and Jimmy. You guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit and maybe general introduction to Nirovision and get into the integration.
Cool. Yeah, my name is Jimmy. I'm the CEO. I'm not doing much today, just here for moral support, really. That's Eliana, of course. She did the last one. And I'll let her introduce herself.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, Tony. That's right. So my name is Eliana. I work for the Nirovision product team, and I'm very happy to be here with you, Tony, and with the audience to show you what we've been working on since we last spoke, a little over 3 months. So we're going to do an overview of what Nirovision is, just for everyone that hasn't seen the system before. We'll jump to a live demo after looking at a few screens. And after we do that, we'll go straight into NX. And I'll show you our NX client with the new features. And at the end of the session, of course, we'll have room for Q&A. But as Tony said, if there are questions along the way, we're more than happy to answer them or stop and repeat anything that's not clear. So Nirovision, we are based in Sydney, like we were talking before. I am very lucky to work with a group of smart and talented engineers here that work on various fields. We have a machine learning team on site responsible to build the algorithms that we present today. Everything is designed and constructed in Australia. We have a mobile team also responsible to build the beautiful UI that you're going to see across the presentation, and obviously the distributed systems that power it all. So Nirovision, the product, we launched it a year ago in ISC West. Remember, Tony, when we had events?
And, back when we could gather in mass.
I know. We presented it a year ago, but we've been working around deep learning for a few years now, and we founded Nirovision with the intention of using deep learning to identify people accurately from security cameras. So also an idea born of necessity, similar to NX. In our case, we started down the road with simpler algorithms that were throwing lots of false alarms. We developed our own facial recognition pipeline, and from that moment on, we continue to include algorithms into this pipeline. So it's beyond facial recognition, and that's why the product that we're here to present and the product that we are all about is Nirovision, and we call it an identity recognition platform. So when we say identity recognition platform, we mean that it's more than just facial recognition technology. We have a pipeline of algorithms to process the information that comes through the cameras. We want to process all that video that's usually sitting idle on a console somewhere hidden in a comms room, process it to give businesses and organizations superhuman insights into who is around their premises. We call this identity recognition platform also because we believe that identifying someone is much more than just matching faces to faces. You are more than just what you look like. Your preferences, the groups of people you hang out with, your behaviors. You're also a combination of information about you, right? You have an employee ID, you have an access card or an access level to a site, you have preferences or things that you like and you don't like, and you also have, for example, a frequency of visit. And recognizing you is much more than just saying, yes, this is Eliana. It's also acknowledging your presence and triggering actions that as a consequence. So for example, opening a door if someone with the appropriate permissions show up, or posting an update to a system. So we wanted to be able to do all that once you have an engine like this running in your premises. And after you have an engine, or once you have an engine installed in your premises identifying people, of course, what you want to do with it is action it. And you can action it by logging into our apps, mobile apps, desktop web app, and now even within the comfort of your NX console, to consume this information in a way that's meaningful. And also, similar to NX as well, we also grow through integrations, because this information is only valid if we make it available to the people that need it the most. So we pass it on to another system like we do with NX, and we consume information from other systems too to enhance this notion of managing someone's identity. So you're gonna see that after the last webinar, we had great feedback from the NX community, and we built tons of features based on what we heard that's needed. But obviously we can't be oblivious to what happened. COVID happened, and even though it's a very painful and sad time, we remain optimistic, and we use the opportunity, like many other companies did, to sit down and think what's our role in this situation and what a facial recognition system could do to contribute to the reopening of businesses and that moment that we're all waiting for when we start easing back into routine. So we started working with thermal cameras or body temperature cameras, and we developed an integration with a few of them that I'm going to show you also as we move forward with the slides. So the idea behind it is some businesses are resorting to measuring people's temperature in order to try to identify someone with an abnormal read, and to process the situation accordingly and address it in a timely manner. They also, this situation also has prompted everyone to think of fully unmanned setups that don't involve exposing anyone to someone that may have, that may be ill. So you're going to see these few features coming around, and also thinking through, there's this type of approach. So measuring someone's temperature usually uses an absolute threshold as a reference, but then the proper way of measuring someone's temperature is to reference change within the individual baseline. And a technology like facial recognition could help you marry temperature reads with individuals in order to make those calculations more meaningful, increasing also the value of the investment that you make once you deploy one of these cameras. So this is what we've been working on as well. And you'll see then bits and pieces as I move along, and that's why we wanted to add it to this slide. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is a screen you've seen before. It's what we call our identities tab. The identities tab, the first thing that should catch your attention is the fact that an identity is comprised of multiple faces that could be collected from your camera's stream, uploaded from an external source, or even a photo taken with your mobile phone. So you'll see when we jump on the live system that we spend a lot of time trying to simplify onboarding, which is an activity that takes a lot of time, a lot of customers' times when it comes to building their identity database. So to simplify onboarding, also we added a few abilities to process information that's meaningful to you to create identities. You're going to see that in a bit. But then jumping back to my identity, you see my name in there. And then the next thing you see is the staff label. So we use labels to create watch lists and create groups of identities. Labels are meaningful for Nirovision because the color cues are going to be represented all over the apps to give you a visual indication of a group activity. And we also use that information for alarms. And then this is part of the information also that we're going to push to the NX environment. So you can also use labels in captions in the rules to create specific notification workflows for groups of people. And then as you keep moving, you'll see custom metadata fields. Coming back to this notion of the identity recognition platform, metadata fields could be manually filled or synced from another system, and they add up to valuable information around this identity. So things you want to keep handy, that you want to action on. In this case, you're going to see also on the right that there's a historical trace of activity, and at the top, you'll notice that there's also temperature information there. So if available, we'll display the read. And then also, I want to point you at the bottom of my identity list, where we are listing a new feature that's called Search for Nearby People. So obviously, when we are processing frames, sometimes frames include single faces, but sometimes people come in groups. Usually when you're pointing at choke points, you get groups of people or 2 or 3 or people having a chat in front of the camera. So when more than a single person is in frame, we can, because we register that event as a recognition event, we save a trace of it linked to the identity. So it's easy for you to see who has spent time with who. And I'm bringing this up because contact tracing is very up in your nose at this moment. It's one of the tactics that we're using to try to fight off this bug. So using a system that includes facial recognition technology like Nirovision can help you figure out who has been on the same frame as who. And it could be applied for this particular use case, but you can also infer information about what your customers are doing or what your groups of interest are doing just by looking at who's spending time with who, and that's what we're here, what I'm showing you here. So this is at the individual level, of course. Once you spend all the time, all the required time to create your identities, you want to see. You want to learn more. You want to start collecting insights that are at a group level, not just focusing on individual people. So that's what the activity view is for. The activity view is the screen where we aim you to explore your data and discover important insights, groups that have attended more than others, special events that need attention, and so forth. So it's fully filterable. The graph that you see at the top is draggable too, so you can tap on it and jump to any point in time to navigate the information easily. And what I'm showing you here in the screen is particularly, I'm going from left to right. The first screen shows a situation with a colleague of ours coming to the office, and you see that she's in frame with her husband. So if you tap on this event in the Nirovision app, you move on to the screen that's right next to it. We call this view the detail view. The clip at the top is playable, so you jump to video to see exactly what happened at that point. But then if you were using a thermal camera, we have a temperature read available at this stage, and we display it. At the bottom, you see nearby people. So Sarah has been seen in frame with her husband, but she's also been seen in frame with Jono, with Jimmy. So you have the record of who has spent time with who. And then you can navigate it at the bottom. If there had been an alarm trigger for it, you'll see it there too. So this is a view that gives you a little bit more information as to this event. And it also gives you the opportunity to correct it if you had made a mistake. So this is an actual true positive, but if this had been a mistake, you would have been offered the option to rectify it at this stage. And that helps, of course, improve the quality of your model. So activity then is a summary of your recognition events. We also display information about those people we tried to recognize against your identity database, and we couldn't. So we also display this as your unknown activity or no matched activity. You can look at it, explore it, and create identities from them too. But then what this is implying is, of course, Nirovision is making a conscious decision when we are saying that a person is said person. Obviously, as a result of the work, the facial recognition pipeline that we built and the thresholds that are involved into saying someone is someone. But sometimes real life is a bit more complicated than a nice environment, like a nice laboratory test setup. So sometimes all you have to do with is a photo that's not ideal for your identity, that's not necessarily sharp. Maybe it's a selfie with poor lighting. And we want to try our best to surface information about that person too, even if we are not near the concrete thresholds to call this a recognition. So we're exposing this type of activity in a way that we call close matches. And I am referring to the screen that you see at your right. So as you see here, the image, the bounding box is pointing at my colleague Aaron. It's a little bit angled. It's not necessarily very sharp. His pose isn't ideal either. So he's not, he is in this case Aaron, but he wasn't recognized as such because he didn't reach the threshold that we set. But then Aaron was selected as the first alternative for these results. So might be Aaron is aiming to show you that this person could be the person that we say it is. And maybe if in this case, as this is Aaron, you use this face to add to his identity, you improve the quality of his identity, and the next time that Aaron shows up, he reaches the threshold and it becomes a recognition. So this is part of what I was talking about earlier, how we heard it loud and clear that onboarding identities is a major step, and it's also a key to success, the key to success in these type of implementations. So we're trying to give you tools to surface this information to you. Of course, we have a server running on your premises that's churning results at very low latency, so we have the luxury to be able to provide you with this information without any impact on performance. So I'll show you a little bit of this when I jump on the live demo, but I'm gonna jump straight to NX, and I've already posted this image in social media, so it's not necessarily new, but this version of the plugin, version 1.2 that we're releasing, includes Nirovision widgets. So we can load both the activity tab of the dashboard and also the identities page inside the NX environment. But what I'm showing you here is Nirovision integrates thermal cameras now. So we get in the Nirovision platform thermal metadata. So of course, what we do afterwards is we push that information through, in this case to NX, to make it available in the NX environment. So this is very, very early days, because this is also something that we've been recently working on. But the vision for this plugin, similarly to the vision for our entire integration with Network Optix, is to make metadata available in a meaningful way for people to consume in NX. So yeah, this is what I was showing, what I wanted to show you here. And that's why when I move on to do the demo within NX, I'm going to be doing it from the comfort of my NX environment.
Random question.
So, sure.
I think you can do this, but I just want to make sure. Your temperature is in Celsius there.
Yes.
For people in North America.
You're wrong.
We're wrong? I'm wrong? Because I don't know what 38.2 means, right? Even as someone who lived overseas for a while. Temperature, I still like temperature that has to do with human bodies, like the type of temperature, like outside temperature, I still find Fahrenheit far more useful than I do Celsius, because of the granularity of Fahrenheit, right? So like for body temperature, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have a very specific number, right? But I mean, everybody's slightly different, obviously.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's right.
If you get above 100, then you got a problem, right?
Yeah.
Over here. So I was just curious. So do you do it in Fahrenheit? Jimmy, no?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we will add real soon. It's just a bit of math to convert it, but
no problem.
Yeah.
And the other question, the other question was, you're getting these temperature sensor readings from the cameras. Is that
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Do you know how accurate they are?
Yeah, I mean, in our testing, they are pretty accurate. You can definitely enhance it using a black body, it's called, and all that is it's a box that kind of emits a set temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, for example.
Yeah.
So that the camera kind of calibrates itself that way. But we found that even without it, it's pretty accurate, and especially the way we do things, where we keep track of your baseline. It doesn't really matter if the camera itself drifts up or down, so long as we keep track of your baseline. Any sudden increase, we will alarm on that, and that's actually more accurate to detect a fever. So
when you say keep track of the baseline, how is the baseline formed?
Yep. So as I enter the office every day, it knows who I am from our facial recognition platform. And then it ties that in with the temperature reading from the camera. So we just keep a record and form an average baseline over time. So it's, that's what I was gonna say. So it's cumulative data points that have been averaged out for your kind of average baseline when you're not ill.
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
So I moved slightly back to show you a little reference. So in this case, in myself, you have a handful of reads, and that's what we're collecting in each time that I am in front of the camera.
Gotcha. Yeah, one of our partners is actually using deep learning to get the cameras down to 0.3 accurate overall, and I think they're doing a similar thing. We're looking at each frame basically and pulling it all together. So I was just curious. Okay.
Of course, and this is also new. I mean, we've been down this road just very recently, so it's a learning opportunity for all of us. Absolutely. To ask
No, it makes perfect sense that you guys are going down this route, especially as thermal cameras have become more readily available and cheaper for everybody, and on this based and everything else. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and also this type of measurement is usually done in a very ephemeral way, so it makes sense to have this information to be consumed in a more meaningful way by linking it to a technology like facial recognition.
Yeah, and I like the additive part of it to where you can, it might be what was his name?
Yeah, Aaron.
Might be Aaron. Yeah, I like that. Might be Aaron. Could be, but I'm not sure. So
it's just that because it's sometimes I mean, obviously when we demo we show you examples of very nice, very healthy identities, but we all know that that's not necessarily the case in some situations, so we just have to make the most out of the information we're provided with.
Yeah, so that threshold that you said is configurable by the customer in terms of like the accuracy rate.
That's right. Yep. So
is there a default that you guys have that's like implemented that you recommend as like a default?
Yeah, exactly. But we have the default available, but we also give you the opportunity to loosen it up a little bit. Because also, of course, you're hiring us to do a job, and that job is we have to make that call for you and let you know who's who. But we also want to give you, without affecting or compromising the quality of the information you're getting, we want to give you the ability to explore your data. So that's why we created this second instance and second threshold that exposes a little bit more info.
Gotcha. So what's
yeah.
Sorry, my question though was the default threshold as it's shipped. Do you guys do you know the default number, like the default certainty?
Yeah, so we have internal defaults. We don't use a percentage like other companies do, where it's 0 to 1 or 0 to 100. So we set medium, high, low internally, and we adjust it accordingly.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, because we constantly update our models, the numbers actually mean different things over time. So, so that's why we keep it internal.
Yeah, we have the same issue. We do the quality of recording, right? And it's medium, low, like better, best. Right? Not really that meaningful if you're someone who's used to looking at cameras and setting precise numbers, right? But then the reason our guys do it is the same reason you do it. It's a bit complex to explain how this number is being generated, right? So more of a, you got to trust us. Which it works, so it's easy to trust us with that. So yeah, I was just curious.
Of course, Tony. Also, you ask great questions. You don't have to apologize. So yeah, coming back to the apps, we were talking about the platform, and I mentioned that we offer you different ways to consume the information that your server is churning. That can be done via our mobile apps. We have iOS and Android apps, and we also have the plugin for NX is available on Windows and Linux. These apps, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but they look great, and we've been awarded a few awards for them, so we are very, very proud. So without further ado, it's time for me to stop these slides and actually jump to what everyone wants to see, which is the app. So tell me.
Quick question. A couple questions came in. Looked like we answered a couple of. What type of database is being used? Is the question.
Type as in.
It's probably not super relevant, I guess. It's a SQL type database, both on the local server and in the cloud as well. Can this be integrated with access control? Definitely yes.
Yeah.
So in Australia, we've already built an integration with InnerRange. We're working on another one called Protege right now, but they all work very similarly. So,
and we're already integrated to both of those.
Hey, exactly.
And yeah, that's another alternative as well. That's probably even better, where we integrate with NX, and NX has a whole bunch of integrations already, right? And you can kind of link the message passing along.
Exactly. That's the beauty of metadata, right, Tony? That once you have it, you can action it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this whole thing.
Cool. So do you see my screen right now? Perfect.
Yes.
So I have, this is the Nirovision app. I'm using the web desktop to start with. So I'm using a test environment that has very, very few identities here to showcase some of the improvements we've made on onboarding. That's beyond there. So if you hit create identity, you're going to see that we're offering you people that we try to recognize against your database and we couldn't. That's your unrecognized. So we're not exposing raw faces discreetly anymore. We group them for you to simplify discovery, and we make them available to you in this tab. So you come to this tab and you're gonna find people that we couldn't recognize in the beginning, and you can jump to any point in time or focus on a camera. But the interesting thing is you also have repeated people that come to your place that can be not recognized. So for example, this gentleman over here, my colleague Francois, you see that there's a 38 times underneath these events. That means that we group with a certain frequency all your unknown activity, and people that we've seen repeatedly, we showcase them to you because we think they may be of interest. Like you have this person come into your store and look, oh, he's wearing a checkered shirt and then he's wearing a blue shirt. So he's coming multiple days. He may be someone that you may want to service. He may be a VIP that you want to know more about. He may be someone interested in your business who hasn't reached the purchase point. So exposing this information in this way, we're hoping that will make it easy for you to turn this person from an unknown to someone known and to be able to provide him with a personalized experience like all customers want. And then you should see over here that at every point in the identity creation, we look at your existing database to try to see if you are about to create a duplicate. So using your database in a conscious manner to try to match whatever you are deciding to create with maybe someone that's existing. So in this case, my colleague Francois, we are looking at people that are closer to his appearance that maybe him, not in this case. So if maybe I was trying to create a duplicate, it would be offered to me here. But in this case, I found him, I can create a new identity for him, and I can send, I'm gonna say Frankie, and I can save it, select a few images that are of good quality for him, and create it already. So obviously once I created him from here, then his events are gonna go away, and I'm gonna already have him available for me. So also, if I was on mobile, you would have a fourth option over here that says upload a photo with your mobile phone. So you can also upload images to create identities like we discussed, but I thought this was an interesting feature to show you because it's something that we haven't seen before. So inside the identity, oh, sorry.
I had a question. Why were you in the unrecognized with a coffee mug in front of your head so often?
Because I've been testing the thermal camera in the office, and it's very tricky to get abnormal reads. I'm lucky I'm healthy, of course, but that means that it's hard to trigger the alarm. So yeah. It's a very ad hoc way of getting it triggered is to approach a hot object to your forehead.
Okay, I was curious.
Of course. What are these guys doing in the office, carrying mugs on top of their heads?
Well, I figured you were testing something.
Yeah.
But just wanted to confirm.
So jumping from the identities view to the activity view, you have your filters on the left. So like we were talking before, all the information we expose can be filtered, and the events will update accordingly. You can choose your zoom levels also for those events. Maybe you want to focus on body because you want to make sure that whoever approaches your desk is the person that you think it is. We also expose metadata at this level. If you're consuming this in a live manner, it may be relevant for you to know maybe a comment about a customer or a note. So we make this information available to you at this stage. And you can filter by camera too. So maybe you want to focus the information on a single camera. And when you go to the person filter, that's where you find your close matches. So if you see, I'm gonna tick this off. You see my colleague Bettio over here. This image, you see it's blurry, pose is not ideal. He's a little bit of focus. So this image over here didn't meet our thresholds, but he's close to Bettio. So if I tap on him, I can confirm him and update his identity to him. In a similar manner, if I was looking for someone particularly, for example, I want to see where the cleaners are around. Oh, that sounds unusual. Maybe he was here more times. So if I enable my close matches and I loosen my threshold, I find another activity for him. And sometimes, in this case, it's a little bit trivial because we have events for these identities, but sometimes this loosened threshold can be the only event that we can find for someone. So exploring your information with the ability to loosen this gives you a little more flexibility. You can also focus on your unknowns or your known events. And you can also choose to hide those events that are of low quality according to our standards. So our quality metrics measuring pose, brightness, sharpness, and other quality values. Or you can just, for debugging purposes usually, explore your entire, all the faces we've detected so far. And then choose to focus at a certain level if you want to focus only on alerts. So now that I've shown you this view, also we can set this live and trigger the reception view. I wanted to show you this field as well. So metadata in Nirovision started being information that you could be filled or synced from another system, but we also created a new type of metadata. We call it smart metadata. That is something we process based on your recognition results. So for example, if you have an identity in the identity database that we've seen repeatedly, it's very trivial for us to tell you when was the last time we've seen that person. And even though it's a small piece of information, imagine the difference that would make if you're greeting a customer of yours and you'd be able to say, hey, oh, we haven't seen you in weeks. Hope you've been great. Or maybe you want to address them in a specific manner based on how long it's been since you've seen them. So we plan on doubling down on this type of information. So giving you metadata as is, but also processing information on your behalf.
So call that smart metadata?
Yes, that's right.
Now, is that metadata defined by the system, or is it something that the customers can do a custom definition of?
So this one is defined by us, but I imagine, I mean, without having a concrete feature to show you at this point, I imagine that there may be some type of metadata that will expose as well. So this particular one we calculate, as I said before, based on when was the last time that we recognized such a person. And it will be, this says this morning, of course, because Matt's around, but this could be last month or as far back as your retention goes when it comes to this info. Let me stop the dashboard for a minute, and I am going to jump on the iPad to show you one last thing. Give me one sec. Perfect. So the last bit that I wanted to show you too is the ability to filter activity by temperature, of course, based on the feature that we just described. So we built the functionality for absolute thresholds. That's what you see right now, but eventually we'll include the opportunity to use this baseline information we were discussing before. So in a simple manner, you filter the activity based on a temperature read, and you see us here testing with the mugs. That's what we were doing. So you can filter your activity by temperature read as well. But then something that's interesting, and I'm gonna find an event of myself, is I wanna show you the nearby people information. So perfect, this is what I wanted to show you. So this is my identity in the system. I'm gonna tap on the event. You get the video clip there, and you see at the bottom that in nearby people, of course, you have Sean because he's on frame with me. You can also see information about this particular event, triggered by which location and by which camera. because something we haven't mentioned before is one of the benefits of running Nirovision is you can sync your identities across multiple sites. So this event could be happening in one corner of the country, and you can be looking at it from a different place. I also give you the opportunity to fix an incorrect match in this situation. If my event was incorrect, I could fix it from one go. I can mark it as unknown if that was the case, or I can jump straight to create a new identity. So every opportunity we have to give you a chance to correct the result or to inform us of something that's not correct and fix your model immediately is available in the app. All right. Any questions that you see, Tony, over here? No, right?
I don't see any coming in. I think they're moving really quick, and people are struggling to keep up because there's so much in terms of features that you guys have right now. So.
Oh, okay. I'm happy to slow down if there's anything that's not clear to the audience. So please bring it up. So
I don't think anything's unclear. I think it's just their brains are kind of exploding right now because of all the features. So.
Maybe it's time to do a little bit of slides again then. Maybe it's time for me to show you a little bit more about NX, because that's what we're here about. So I'll jump back to the slides and talk about the integration. When we started down this road, of course, we were lucky to get access to Meta very, very early on to build this plugin. And of course, I also want to thank NX support, because they've been incredibly helpful, and the NX technical team too, working with us to publish this new version of the plugin, version 1.2, 3 months after we released the original one. But the benefits that we see of using Nirovision concretely and facial recognition technology in general, when in the NX environment particularly, is first you get to action recognition results, right? It's very resonating with when someone is showing NX and talks about how much, you throw this figure a lot, Tony, how much video content is generated worldwide that's sitting idle. So efficiently processing this information so you can get real-time alerts when someone of interest shows up, when someone unknown is in your premises, is of incredible value. You can also, in the Nirovision case, because we have labels and we sync label metadata to NX, you can focus your real-time alerts on a specific group of interests using captions. And then also, because NX allows you to trigger multiple type of actions based on rules, you can trigger identity-driven system actions. And by identity-driven, I don't just mean recognition results, but you can also action metadata information. In this case, temperature, because we're talking about that. But if in the future we sync through another type of system, we also expect you to be able to trigger identity-driven actions in NX. And then, of course, if you're watching this live, we overlay bounding boxes and metadata on live video. So if someone is actively looking at the camera, they can get a quick insight just from looking at it. But then, besides actioning things in real time, there's a lot of value also in your cumulative insights. So all those trends and information that gets generated after you repeatedly recognize people in your premises and you continue to build up on your metadata, that allows you to review timeline of recognitions for identities and also to spot group activity that you would have missed otherwise. And then you can use all this metadata in NX to do very detailed investigations, search the notification panel to find that discrete event and play it back, or focus on an area of interest leveraging smart search. So in any form of fashion that you want to explore this information is available to you. And now with the inclusion of the widgets, you can perform some of this functionality directly in NX. And at the same point in time, also, what both Nirovision and NX are doing is extending the capabilities of your hardware. So bringing deep learning to any IP camera, but that should have a little asterisk on the side and say to any video, right? Because if you can run video in NX, because we take a copy of the RTSP stream of the camera or the sensor via NX, as long as it's playable in NX, it's consumable in Nirovision, which means that your investment in any type of hardware is already enhanced by adding deep learning capabilities. So What we added in this version of the plugin, what we're here to talk about, we developed the plugin using C++ and Meta SDK. That's why we get the cool toys ahead of time. We have a version for Ubuntu and for Windows. In the Windows version, the guys have been working incredibly hard. They built an installer for it. So it's very simple and straightforward to set up. Of course, because we're using the widgets, we recommend NX Witness 4.1 onwards. But the previous version of the plugin worked with 4.0 because we of course need the notification panel in order to expose this information in NX. So this version of the plugin is very, very easy to set up. You install it on your NX server hosting cameras. With recording enabled, so we could save analytics metadata and save video. And then once you enable the plugin on a camera, the plugin automatically will create a camera in Nirovision and configure that camera by itself. So prior to this release, you had to collect the RTSP URL from the NX environment and paste it in Nirovision to create the corresponding camera. That's no longer needed. You just install it, and it literally takes 1 minute and 39 seconds. And I'm going to show you because I've recorded myself.
That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you just to breathe so I can give you a recording. So I can ask you if you guys had a recorded video that would show how the setup works.
Absolutely.
So just one point, guys.
Yeah.
So Nirovision is part of our kind of Meta developer program, and Meta is the platform that NX Witness and all powered by NX products are built with, right? So what Eliana is going to show you here is a 4.1 version of Meta, yes. Which is really just a pre-released version of the 4.1 for NX Witness. And the 4.1 version of NX Witness, the beta is available today on my.network. So the timing is very good for this. So the beta is available today, and you can download the beta and try it. The beta is not for production environments, so please do not go upgrade your customer systems to a beta version, because then there will probably be problems, and then we'll have to have you downgrade to 4.0 again. But the beta is available, so what she's going to show you here, you can play with pretty much right away. Now there was a question that came in at 4.2.
Of course, go for it.
He said, "Can you extract a useful report of activities, like how many times a person appears in a certain period?"
Yes.
Okay, using timeline style. I'm not sure what that means. Well, I think that means
a timestamp.
Client.
I'm sorry, I missed you for a sec.
I think that means in the NX desktop client. If you were to highlight a segment of time, would the reports respond in the web client to the timeline? I doubt that you guys did that.
Yeah,
because
no.
It's extremely advanced. But it sounds like a great idea at some point in the future. But for now, exactly. The answer, is no, not yet. No. Right?
Yeah.
If you want to get reporting data from Nirovision, you're going to do it in the Nirovision interface.
Correct.
If you want to see live video or recorded video associated with those events you see in the Nirovision interface, then you can view them in the NX Witness client, right. or you can go view individual events in the Nirovision clients. So
yes, that's absolutely right. But it's a great idea, actually. So
it's a great idea, but you know, yeah. there are lots of great ideas and only so much time.
I know, but I love the NX community because things like this happen all the time, and that's how you get great products that actually suit customer use cases. So of course, keep them coming.
But Justin asked a question, which was, what are the privacy implications of using this in a public place like a restaurant?
I mean, of course, this is something that's being debated at this point. Several countries are handling this in different ways, so it's very hard for me to generalize an answer. But the truth is, if certain legislations accommodate for use cases like this, and if that's the case, then the integration is built for that. So, I mean, I understand, of course. Sorry?
Yeah, I can answer some of that too in terms of like what I understand. It's really geographic, Justin. It depends on which country you're in and which government, what the government rules are. The UK, for example, impossible to keep video more than 30 days. It's a violation of the law, right?
Yeah.
And so we added the ability to say maximum storage duration for that reason. My guess is with facial recognition like this, it will be, there'll have to be some security stuff. I think it's going to be legislated at some point where there's going to have to be some security processes on the back end for like keeping people's data privacy, just like GDPR.
Yeah.
But and also I think that you're going to see a limit to the time that you can keep that information because of the long-term privacy implications of it. But right now it's really it's a conversation you're going to have with your customer, right?
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
really up to the end user as to whether or not they want to deploy these systems. In some environments, they're absolutely innocuous, right? Gym environment. If you go to the gym, most people would rather just walk in the gym and be allowed to go to the gym than have to take out their card and shake everybody's sweaty hand and everything like that, right? As they go in. So it really depends. Okay.
Yeah, assuming you're in Australia because of your 9 to 5 quote at the start, we can maybe give a bit more color here. So in Australia, there are no additional laws beyond the CCTV regulations. So it's perfectly legal, at least right now. Obviously, government is looking at it, and we are in talks with government as well as it unfolds. In Australia, it seems like obviously there'll be legislations on privacy and so forth, but we're probably trending towards it being allowed rather than not being allowed. So for example, we already have a bunch of customers that are restaurants, clubs and pubs, for example, using our system in Australia. In fact, in South Australia, they are actually going to mandate that facial rec be used if a restaurant has gaming machines, essentially above a certain number. So yeah, short answer is it's legal. It's public, but it's also private property. So if you land and enter a venue, you're sort of giving consent to be recorded on CCTV, and that also applies to face rec at the moment.
Yeah, Jimmy, I saw a question came in from David too about the searching against public web spaces like Facebook. I think that's related to the Clearview. And they're in a bunch of trouble right now because their database got hacked. So, yeah, that's not exactly legal. And I think that company is under, I mean, it's yet to be determined, right? But the company is under investigation right now and is working with the government to determine the legality of you know, their database, and Jimmy and these guys obviously have not done that.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, it's probably illegal. I guess that's to be debated in the courts. I think Facebook and all of them are suing Clearview themselves for scraping the data. And I mean, just ethically speaking, we don't want to go anywhere near that for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's just not, yeah. So it's a challenging space, guys. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but I also think, like, as a society, we have to wonder about these type of things. We have to debate them. That's what legislation is for. So it's interesting that as a community in the security industry itself is also asking the same question. So this is conversations that I imagine we'll continue to have as time progresses. But to jump back to the features, the last bit that that we were going to show you is the widgets that we've been talking for a while. So the widgets allow you to manage identities and check the activity graph within the NX interface. So what data do you get when you install Nirovision into NX? You get custom events for recognitions and for unknowns. So those people we try to match against your database and we couldn't, but we think they may be of interest to you. So you can use these rules to trigger any type of action. You're more than familiar with that. And then you can also leverage the activity widget if you want to explore the graph while you're searching for these type of events. But then also you get face objects with identity metadata. So all the information that's relating to names, all the labels. So if someone can have multiple labels, you get all that in NX and it's all searchable. And if there's temperature information available, we sync that too. And because we sync bounding box coordinates, you can use smart search. So face objects, identity metadata, plus custom events. And then once that information is in NX, you can action it similarly to how you would action any other metadata coming from an analytics plugin. When it comes to the setup in Nirovision, what you need to run it is you need a dedicated server for Nirovision. So right now we don't support virtual environments or running on the same server as NX. We need a dedicated server with an Intel i5 or a Ryzen 5 or a better running or a better GPU running the latest Nirovision software. And an NVIDIA GPU is recommended for multi-camera setups. But if you want to do a test with a single camera, we can run that on CPU. So sometimes, well, one of the most common questions we get when someone aims to test Nirovision is, I want to get my hands on the system, I want to run it quickly, I have a NAC available. Perfect. For an office test, run it, you can run it. But then for deployments where there's an interesting volume of identities and also and you want full functionality, an NVIDIA GPU is recommended. And all the information that you need to set up the plugin that you're gonna see in a minute is available to you through one of the tools that we offer our partners that we call the Partner Portal, which is also a desktop web-based app that we provide to integrators and security installers, so they have information available about their customer setups. So coming to the video, I'm gonna play it. There's no audio in there. I'm going to the NX system administrator. I've already installed the plugin. So I made a notepad with the IP address of my NX server. I enter my NX username and the password. You'll have to believe me there because we blurred it. I'm going to the Partner Portal and going all the way to my server settings to find the address of my server. And I paste that in the Nirovision plugin configuration screen. And I need a token for the first contact between the Nirovision server and NX, and that's it. So once you finish setting up the plugin, you're into the camera. In my case, I created the camera that's pointing at the foyer, which is usually what I use for demos. So this you've seen a gazillion times, so you've seen how easy it is. Find a camera, pair the camera, and once the camera is added then to NX, what's happening next is, let's wait for it to be added. I'll put it in my, in my dashboard, and I'm going to enable the plugin first. When we do that, the plugin will create the same camera in the Nirovision infrastructure. So then when we add it to rule, which is happening right now, we get an event. So that whole video is 1 minute and 39 seconds, and that's how quickly you can set this up.
For a single camera.
Yes, of course, yeah. Yeah, the guys have been working very hard at this because it's not, the setup wasn't complicated per se, but it's very nice to be able to get your hands on a system to test it quickly. No one wants to spend a lot of time setting things up. So we wanted to make it as easy and as straightforward as possible. Okay, so let's look at my NX console now. I'm sure you, throughout the presentation, you were able to hear my, my Mac because I had the NX client open. So this is live. I have my widgets loaded over here.
Do one thing for me, Eliana.
Yeah, of course.
Click on the tab at the top, just create a new window.
Yep.
Okay, so just to make sure, because when everything's on it, it looks a lot different than it does without it, without anything on it. This is the Meta desktop, which is the same as the NX Witness desktop client. Mm-hmm. So you've got your devices and your servers and your web pages and everything on the left. And you got your notifications panel on the right.
Yes, over here.
Okay, now you can go back. Sorry.
It's okay. I know. I know what you're saying because I've been using Meta for such a long time that I got very used to the structure. But I failed to realize that most people use NX Witness. So yeah, we get the cool toys.
It's not so much the structure. It's more that. So for example, you've got this dashboard set up, but how did you set it up? Dragging and dropping in and resizing it, and exactly. Just like a normal camera for normal web pages.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. I play with the ratios for them to look this nice. Actually, one of our teammates built the layout for me, so it looks very nice and it's proportionate. But all the widgets are can be resized and adapted to whatever ratio you're after. So then in NX, like you can see, I can open my identity. I can also navigate my historical timeline. I can see my metadata too. I can look at my activity view and filter it by any form, any time matter that I like. I can look for a specific label. But what I want to show you is how easy it is to search for an event in NX. I can look for my label. I am blacklisted in Nirovision, so I can find all those events where a blacklisted person is around just by searching by label name. You got me running.
You were running. Okay.
Yeah, over there, look.
Now I have a question about the web pages. Okay.
Yes, shoot.
Do those get automatically populated as part of the plugin, or is that something you have to do manually?
Well, your identities, you have to manually create them. So like I showed you earlier on the create identity stuff. So to create, oh, sorry.
Not the identity, just the web pages you're showing in the dashboard right now. So you've got web pages here, you got the dashboard activity and dashboard identities.
Yes.
So those are pages from, those are being served from the local server, the IP address server that you put in, right?
Yes, that's right.
No,
sorry. My mistake, Tony. The web, this is cloud-based, so this is not being served from the server. My mistake. So it's consuming the information from your server, but this is the version of the web desktop app that we have just run in NX. So it's not local, it's cloud.
So how did you add it into the NX client is my question.
So on the left,
do you have to manually do it, or do you have to happen when you install a plugin? That was my question. So you have to manually add these two. So if you right click on dashboard activity.
Yes.
Then
it's my bad. I misunderstood your question. You're right. So this comes preloaded for you. So the web pages addresses come loaded for you, but you have to manually pull them into view. Actually, I'll do it for you. You have to manually pull them up.
They do get automatically loaded when you install the plugin.
Exactly. Yes.
So you don't have to manually configure those pages at all.
No, not at all. No.
Install the plugin; those pages will come in.
Exactly.
Correct?
Yes. Correct.
Even better. Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. No, of course. And I'm glad that you spot things out. And I also want to make this clear to everyone because this is information that's available already. So my mistake came from the fact that, of course, to get this information displayed in this way, you have to have identities in the system, and that you have to construct by yourself, of course.
Yeah.
So if I had no one in the system, I would have nothing to show you at this page. But yeah, so fully functional, and you can navigate it as much as you'd like. When it comes to events, you have the recognition events as well as the unknown events, if there had been any. And when it comes to the objects, of course, you have the faces with the labels, the identity name, and the bounding box coordinates. So if you want to search for a specific area, you can do that too.
For this, does it show for the objects, the faces they're recognizing, it will show unrecognized faces as well, or just
no, just recognized for now. But I mean, don't discard the possibility that we may end up doing that too.
Yeah, well, one of our partners has something similar where they do it with the unrecognized faces, and then you can actually enroll people from the objects on the right? So I was just curious if you guys had gone down that path or not yet.
But that's a plan, definitely. And the plan is for you to be able to use this information to create an identity for NX. So mostly service the option for you to work from a single screen, mainly.
Yeah, and just for everybody on the call, when you right click on one of those objects that's called a context action. Just so you know. It's in documentation. So a context action is something that's part of the metadata SDK that you can do with objects that have been brought in via the metadata SDK. All right.
And if this was a thermal camera, then I would have also, in line with my metadata, I would have a temperature read.
Yeah, one other thing to notice is when you're in the objects tab, on the timeline, you see the yellow that's highlighted.
Yes.
That is whatever is matching your current search
Exactly.
scenario. So you've got a little area selected or not? I'm not sure.
Yes, over here. Yep.
So in that area, faces were detected where those yellow lines are, which is just like the smart motion search from us, where you highlight a specific set of pixels. Works the same exact way with objects.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. And then the last bit that I haven't shown you, this hasn't changed since last time, but it's interesting to see. So I have my rule set to this camera, and I'll show you in a minute. Actually, this went away. It's because it's still playing. Sorry?
You can highlight it and press. You can highlight it and press delete, and that little thumbnail will go away.
Okay. I think I stuck it. Okay, I'll show you. I'll show you in a second. I'll jump back to it in a minute because I get it stuck. So before we wrap this up, because I imagine there's a lot of questions. I see the question lighting up, and I wonder if people want to see more of NX. But if not, I can talk to you a little bit about our pricing structure and what you need to run Nirovision on. Okay, yeah. So while Tony reads the questions, I'll talk about that then. Nirovision is subscription based. So if you want to run our software together with NX, you need a dedicated server for it. The way this works is we take a copy of the RTSP URLs from NX, we process them in the Nirovision server, and we push back the metadata results into NX. The architecture is a hybrid cloud edge. The edge server processes the streams to get recognition results, and the streams are processed through our entire pipeline. So not just facial recognition, but all the other algorithms too. They get assessed by quality, so we can classify results into low and high quality, and we get the positives or the negative hits to confirm unknowns. And once that information is pushed to NX, then it's ready to be consumed. So subscription-based means we charge you a fee per camera per month, and we also charge you based on the size of your database, a cost per identity. And we believe, we are software developers ourselves. We work on software development cycles, so we're constantly pushing new features. And we're also very lucky to sit close to the NX technical team to develop. As Meta evolves, we evolve together with Meta. So the plan for this plugin is to continue to improve and to add more metadata to it. Today is temperature because that's the integration we're working on. But anything in the future, we also foresee the capability to be pushed to NX. And then at the same time, simplifying setup, making the plugin more resilient, and maybe the opportunity of running it as an app itself. So that's where we see this system going. So this is version 1.2. Like you said at the beginning of this webinar, Tony, for more 1.2, but we expect it to grow up and to release way more versions than that. So reach out to us if you'd like to set Nirovision up. If you'd like to be a reseller, we work through resellers. So our customers are you guys, you're the system integrators and the distributors and the installers. We service you. If you have a concrete project in mind, which happens a lot, you're not sure if this is the right system for you or if the use case that you're after is too far-fetched, we're more than happy to discuss specific requirements together. And then in this case, if you want to get early access to some of these features that we showcased, even though most of what I showed you is already available in production, but of course, there's always something in the works. So if you want to get early access to any of this, you want to chat about thermal, because that's one of the things we talked about, Nirovision itself, or any other integration, the best way to reach out is include your NX sales rep and include myself. And we'll make sure to address your queries, have any discussion that you're after. We're pretty flexible. And like you said, Tony, we're also working from home lately, so we have plenty of time for a virtual coffee or a chat.
All right. I didn't see any more questions come in. The temperature stuff's available now, or is that like a beta type thing right now?
It's a beta.
It's beta, yeah.
Okay. So there's a plan to, I mean, how often do you guys do updates to the public version of the software? Meaning like the software that's running in real world sites?
Yeah, we don't have a set cycle, so it can be as quickly as weekly, even. So like right now we're doing a lot of releases, but yeah, generally every month or so we'll definitely have an update.
Yes.
So it's more of a continuous development, and then like, where do people go to subscribe to like find out about new features you guys have?
Yeah, just email Eliana and we'll put you on our mailing list.
Yep.
Email
Super
list.
simple.
Okay.
Yes.
And or follow you on social media.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or the website, yeah. Probably the website is the best place for everything, I guess.
That's right.
All right, so go to the website, sign up for the newsletter you guys send out.
Yes, that's right. Keep up to date with the latest features and reach out if you want to have a chat.
All right. I'm trying to think of any other questions because I don't see any coming in from these guys.
It's all good. Maybe like you said, we're think it through, reach out afterwards. We're more than happy to answer them. And yeah, if you get a hold of anything, Tony, just email it to us.
I did have a question on a previous slide. You mentioned that in production environments for on-prem, you recommend GPUs, right?
Yes.
Is there a base kind of GPU that you recommend that has a certain number of faces / cameras it can do?
Yeah, so without a GPU, we can probably do 1 or 2 cameras quite fine. And then moving up to say an NVIDIA GTX 1650, you can probably do up to, or maybe even 4 to 8, 4-ish cameras.
Yeah.
The 1660 will probably give you quite healthily 8 cameras, and so on and so forth. So as they get bigger, the more cameras you can support concurrently.
What about a 2080?
That should do pretty well.
That's what I got at home. That's what I'm asking.
Oh.
I got a 2080. So I mean, how many cameras could I do?
Probably tons. It's pretty expensive, so we don't have those in the office right now. But we can benchmark it, yeah, for sure.
You don't have have you tried it with a 1080?
Yeah, 1080 it's pretty good already, essentially.
Yeah.
It's pretty what? Sorry.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty hefty in itself. Yeah.
Okay, so you said 1660 was 8 cameras?
Yep.
Yep.
And 1080, you didn't have a number. You just said pretty good.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I think the 1080 has more cores, even though it's an older generation. So I think that will be probably 16 camera type range.
Yeah. No, I was just curious if you guys knew. Okay, so because a lot of these guys are trying to build solutions right now. Do you have, I mean, Jimmy, we talked about this briefly a while ago, but I don't know if you guys have made any progress on it. The embedded stuff from NVIDIA, the developer boards with the Jetson. Have you guys tested against the various Jetson developer boards?
Yeah, so we have played with the TX2 a while back, but honestly it hasn't been the focus for right now. So definitely our code does run on it, but we haven't looked at it in a while. So if there is a project that wants to deploy that, we can definitely look at it and work closely with the partner on that.
I have a webinar for you to watch tomorrow. It's with Advantech. It works with NX with Advantech based out of Taiwan, and they have an Xavier AGX based box that's embedded with port PoE on it. So in a perfect world, Nirovision could install on that box and run 8 cameras because it has 8 ports of PoE, right? Yeah. But that would be a perfect world. So,
that's a very tempting idea, though, worth exploring.
There's a lot of different hardware coming out, and the reason I bring it up is the challenge for, I think, most of our partners and most of the integrators out there, and it was the same at the original inception of video analytics with Object Video and a lot of the companies that were the older companies that first brought this stuff to light, really in the early 2000s, was how do you spec the hardware for this thing, right? How do you sell the hardware? How do you design the system? So, so in that kind of vein of discussion, I mean, if someone has, let's say, a significant system where they're not talking about, you know, like one camera or 4 cameras or 8 cameras. They're talking about, I've got, you know, 2,000 cameras that I need to run this on, right? I'm assuming you guys will sit down with them and do like a design exercise with them and tell them, oh, this is what you're going to need at these places in order to have the best possible outcome.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And not just that, Tony. We also brainstorm about camera placement. There are a few factors to consider to guarantee the success or to improve the chances of success of a setup like this. And we have knowledge to help you with that. We also work with partners to do exactly that. So if that's something for anyone who's wondering at this point how to do that, yeah, the best way and my advice is always to reach out, and we'll be able to guide you. Sorry.
Is there a minimum pixel count for facial recognition for you guys?
So we recognize faces that are in a standard implementation, of course, that are 40 by 40 pixels. But then we also include another measurement in consideration, which is the size of faces that we allow you to create identities with. So not every face is of good enough quality to be included in identities, and that size is 110 pixels by 110 pixels. Okay. But those two values are configurable, because obviously not every implementation is the same, and sometimes this size can be achieved. So the message that I want to pass on is we have these standards that we recommend, but part of the work we do during installations is to tweak all these things, the quality settings too, to make sure that in the end, the faces that are coming through are good enough to guarantee good results. So that is all part of what we consider a job to be done during the installations.
Okay, that's helpful.
Of course, yeah.
Are there any other questions out there, everybody? I don't see any come in.
Probably getting late.
Justin hit the point of he had to go. It's 5:15. Maybe it was time for him. Justin's out. Everybody else, I mean, if you got any questions, you got another minute or two to ask them. You can tell these guys will answer basically any question you throw at them. So, anything you want to know about facial rec?
Ooh.
All right.
I'm curious.
Is metadata retention period configurable? Good question, Rona. So in NX Witness, the metadata retention matches the archive retention. So if you've got video, the metadata will be next to it, right? If the video gets overridden, then the metadata is no longer relevant, obviously, because the video is gone.
Right.
That being said, just like, you know, you can do scheduled backup to a larger location. You could potentially back up the metadata database every once in a while if you wanted to keep it, but I'm not sure. It's not going to be accessible to you right now. I know there's some API tools that are coming out to give developers access to that metadata so that they can use it as a shared metadata a database, so that different systems can use that metadata at the same time. But right now, the retention period is specific to the archive video, and I'm not sure about you guys. So, what's the metadata retention period for Niro?
It's the same in our case. It's configurable, but so in a standard implementation, it's 60 days, but it could be switched to anything you need. And like you mentioned, Tony, if you're syncing this information to the next, you extend your storage capabilities by virtue of how much storage you have in the next two.
Yep. Okay. Good question, Rona. Any other questions? All right. Well, I have one more follow-up question, which is you guys have a listing in the works with the next marketplace right now on my.networkoffice.com. Is it updated with your latest video stuff, or is that going to be when you release it?
No, but it's gonna be coming soon. I haven't got to work on that yet, but you should expect it in the next few days. Absolutely.
No problem. All right.
No, it's just I bring you the shiniest toys to the webinar, Tony. I'll catch up on paperwork afterwards.
You guys said you had some new features, but I didn't know what they were. I thought you just did something like the configuration in the plugin, and I had no idea that you had done all of that. Because honestly, that is the way when we came up with the ability to have the embedded browser, to the metadata SDK, and everything like that. The solution that these guys just showed is kind of what we were thinking about people could do with these tools. And it's great to see that Nirovision has done it in such a nice kind of seamless matching way. Because literally when you pulled that up, I thought that was your system, not our system. And I've seen our system a lot, right? I was like, wow, they got a nice new interface. But actually, that's the combined interface, and that's the power of the embedded browser, the new embedded browser in 4.1, the stuff that Nirovision is doing. And I apologize to my own team for saying this, but Nirovision has a better looking web-based interface than we do. So that interface looks super nice. And the reporting tools from Nirovision are also extremely nice in the way that you kind of navigate and find information. And then combining those two things together, you just get this really compelling solution where, you know, if you're having to manage facial identity information for people coming into your facility, whether it's a retail application where you're doing like VIP type stuff, or you're looking at repeat customers, or if you're doing it in a high security environment, you're still going to get the same exact solution. You still got the ability to do both of those things. And that's what I like about the combined solution so much, is it covers pretty much every use case where you want to have identity management, and you still want to have your kind of full powered VMS to hook it to different things and automate it. And if you guys haven't watched yet, and Jimmy and you guys might like this as well. Yesterday we did a demo, or we did a work for the next webinar with Ness, based out of Australia, and they have a product out of the US called the Elk M1, and it's an automation device that these guys were talking into their you know, Google Homes and their Apple homes, and they were saying, you know, hey, show me this camera on this monitor, all right, and it would pull up our camera on NX Witness and pull it up in real time, and it was just nuts. I mean, these guys have done the other side of the automation, which is really the connecting the lights, connecting to the different home automation stuff you have there, locks, access control. So you could see a situation where you combine these things together, and you've got this extremely powerful, really simple, easy to use solution where everything still works together seamlessly, but also each individual application can also be used independently for people who need it, right?
Yes.
So it's just very compelling, and I really appreciate the work you guys put into this.
Thank you.
Looks fantastic. So thank you. We had another one from Brendan Dodd. I'm wondering, can recognition events trigger continuously or on leaving a frame? Thinking of door locking, unlocking a door when the black person leaves. So in terms of like use case, I mean, typically you have a camera looking at when someone's coming in the door, and if you want to unlock the door when that person leaves, you need a camera looking the other direction as well, right? Because your face is kind of the thing that matters, right? It's your credential, Brendan. So without your face, I mean, it's kind of, you're just unlocking the door, you know, whenever you see
with
someone
your aura.
Anything's possible, guys. You know, it's really more about the use case and what it's for. All right, I think there was another question, but it seemed like it came in and left.
Oh, I just replied. Someone asked which email, so I typed it again.
Ah, gotcha.
So,
yeah, Jimmy, you were knocking them out earlier too. I was wondering what happened to these questions.
yeah, sorry, I hope I didn't throw you off.
Multitasking away.
We're about 20 minutes over our budget. So thank you guys so much for coming in this morning and giving us this presentation. Very helpful. For those of you who are still on the call, all 13 of you, reach out to Eliana and your NX salesperson if you got any questions. And thank you for attending this Works with the Next webinar.
Yes, thank you everyone.
Thanks,
and thank you, Tony. See you next time.
Stay safe out there, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.